I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor here in Mumbai.
And I'm Toya Singh joining you right here from New Delhi. We're looking at a particularly important story that we hope has relevance to each of you who are tuned into us today. Let's take you through all of the stories we have on the show. Our first story, mental health, but we're taking a new and different look at it. We know that therapy lingo, for example, has become particularly common in the way that we talk, younger people in particular. But what about the older demographics? So those who are, for example, in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, are they going to therapy more? Is the prevalence of therapy and mental health in our society actually changing the demographics of those people who are entering into therapy? That's what we'll take a look at on the show.
Also coming up, we've got speed painter Vilas Nayak joining us. He's our person of interest as he is managing to literally whip up art in matter of minutes. You blink and a portrait is actually ready. Juggling art in academics like a boss. What's the story behind Vilas Nayak? That's coming up.
And today is National Sports Day 2024 and we're going to be celebrating it with a tribute to the hockey icon Major Dhyan Chand, the wizard of hockey. And we'll also have the heartbeat Manpreet Singh on TBC. We're going to have Manpreet talk about fitness, the cheat meals that he has planned, and of course what his family supporters look like over the last few years. Our top story today is one that we hope will resonate deeply with everyone that is watching. Over the last few years, mental health, therapy, these are all concepts and terms that have comfortably entered into all of our daily lexicons. There was a time when there was a great deal of stigma attached to discussing what was considered to be taboo topics. But today, it's quite commonplace to hear our stars, be it sports people or celebrities, get candid about their mental health.
So we thought, and in fact we know for a fact that young India is relatively comfortable with the idea, right? And a recent study actually found out that a massive 80% of Indians actually trust that their parents will support them if they were to go for therapy. But here on TBC, we want to track not just that, but also the older generations. What about our aunts and grandparents? Are Indians in their 50s, 60s and 70s also seeking therapy? And are they encouraging their peers to seek that too, or is it still something that generation, our seniors, do not speak about?
So we actually went and looked at the data here. We've one of the longitudinal aging study in India. It's actually a survey of more than 72,000 people across the country, and the age demographic is age 45 and above across the country. It found that the overall proportion who screened positive for depressive symptoms was actually at 28%. That's almost 1 in every 3 people. Mental health, of course, manifests in more than just depression. That's just one way of looking at it. It can look like anxiety, isolation, cognitive decline. Today on the show, to understand if we're finally seeing Indians open up to going out there and getting help for each of these issues. That's the question. To understand that, we have with us an expert on the show. It seems like the data does seem to show that we are seeing an increase in people seeking therapy across all demographics. So be it young, be it old.
Which is quite encouraging, right? We would love to have a generation which initially thought of mental health as a taboo subject, not to be discussed in drawing rooms, actually come up. And to bring us his perspective, let's bring in our guest now. We have with us from the Sanjeevani Society of Mental Health. The Sanjeevani Society is something that was established in 1978. They provide counselling services to thousands of people entirely free of cost. Mamta Vaish, senior counsellor from that, is with us. We also have somebody who is bearing a heart out on national television and sharing her journey of mental health here with us. We've got Jabba Sen Menon. Jabba turned 59 recently and is actually much ahead of her curve. She started taking counseling when she was 35. Now that's clearly path-breaking for her times. And she herself is a leadership consultant and coach with career spanning, several decades as well. So let's welcome both our guests on the program. Can I take the first question with Jabba then? Chaba, hi, good morning. Thanks so much for being with us, and duly very, very indebted to have you share your story with us as well. Can I first understand your perspective on how times have changed, if at all, on how mental health conversation used to happen back in the day when you were 35 to cut to say when we are 35?
So I think when I was 35, I don't know many of my peers or colleagues or even family taking support for mental health and actually having a conversation in their drawing room about taking support for it, or the fact that they are facing mental health challenges. So the jargon, the narrative has changed somewhat, but unlike your data, I just heard when Toya was giving us the figures, and I am not so convinced that it is commonplace even now. I still think that there is stigma attached to it. I still believe that parents and the younger generation and their children are nervous talking about it publicly or acknowledging the fact that they have issues or challenges regarding their mental health. That's my personal belief based on whatever little data I have.
Right, let's back that up. Jabba, your point, let's take it over to the professional that we have with us here. Mamta Vesh is a senior counsellor, as we said, at Sanjeevani Society, and she's been someone who's been in this profession for 25 years and more now. Mamta, we're just sharing with our audiences on the screen some of the data that you gave us, and that data is of just the last year and this year. And you can see a slight increase, but to Jabba's point, it doesn't seem like it is commonplace at all. I just want to ask you what your experiences are. Shed some light on what the demographics have looked like over the last few years.
Picked up as a go-to, as a tool to deal with the challenges of life. And because it has generally picked up, definitely it's more popular with the young, and our majority client is definitely in the age bracket of within 35, but we are seeing a rise in a whole lot of people above 50, above 60, and it could be because they have been motivated by younger family members. It could be their own awareness. We have to also understand that today, what we call seniors or elders are not really what the elders were in our generation, right? So my grandmother was a whole lot older and less exposed. Today, people 60 plus or 70 plus are on social media, and they are far more fitter. They are going to the gym. So if the whole profile of the elder or senior citizen has changed, then counseling is something that is coming to them also. So whether it is, discussions within the family, or it is a general openness to adapt to the new in the life. And a lot of issues for the elder members of our society could be related to how to accept the changing times which they experience because of their children or grandchildren. They need to adapt to a lot of stuff which is challenging, and they do reach out. That has been Sanjeevani's experience and data.
True. Okay. No, fair point. But Jabba, I want to understand more about what you said, because this is clearly seems to be coming from experience, right? You've been a trailblazer in a way. You started seeking therapy when you were much younger. But what do you think keeps elder people or people your age away from therapy and counseling these days? I ask because mental health is a conversation in households these days, right? And when it's happening across generations. So are elder people saying कि ये तुम्हारी generation की बातें हैं, तुम लोग जाके करो, हम नहीं करेंगे? Is that the sentiment? Or what is it that's keeping them away?
So I'm going to quote a couple of conversations that immediately come to mind with my peers. So one statement that I clearly remember over dinner is a parent telling me how mental health conversations are a luxury for the younger generation. In our times, we didn't have the time and the space to think about our mental health. But that's a luxury of the younger generation who can indulge in such conversations and also entertain the thought of taking external support. The second part is, again, from my own personal experience amongst my close friends. It is very hard for the people like us to accept that we are still not okay when we are expecting our children and people around us okay, we ourselves are not okay. It's not very easy. It takes a lot of courage to accept that I am not okay. So I think the courage is lacking. Secondly, I would also think that every time you go to a counselor or seek external help, you have to relive the times that have made you uncomfortable. It could be adapting to newer ways of life that we are seeing around us and sometimes are willing to accept or forced to accept. Or it could be uncomfortable experiences, sad or unfortunate experiences that we have gone through. We don't want to relive that again. And we think that we have processed it and moved on. But actually, only in our conscious cognitive self have we may think we have processed it. In the subconscious, it is so deeply embedded that without an external support, we cannot process it. There is science and there is a framework which the professionals adopt to deal with issues like this. But are we even aware of the process or the framework or the fact that there is a science which can help us lead a freer, better life? We are exposed, but we would rather not look that way. So I think these are a couple of things that come to my mind.
Can we just ask you, Jabba, we'll stay with you for a second. I want to ask, can you tell us how did the idea that you need to go to therapy or you want to go rather to counseling, that's something you want to start, how did that actually happen for you? What age were you? We told our audiences you were in your 30s, mid-30s. How did that happen? Was it actually something you'd been familiar with as a concept for many years and you decided to try it? Just walk us through that.
Yeah, I think I was born in more fortunate circumstances. I grew up in the campus of Central Institute of Psychiatry, which is the largest facility perhaps even today in India for mental illness. So it came very naturally to my consciousness that mental health is also an issue which needs to be addressed. There are psychologists, there are psychiatrists, there are counselors, there are therapists, and these terms were not alien to me. I got exposed to them when I was 4 years old. So therefore, I was always aware of a world which dealt with mental health and the various specializations, whether it was a clinical psychologist, whether it's a child psychologist. I was even aware of the nuances in this profession. So when it came to me, I think I'm still hungry for being a happy, healthy person. It's my hunger, but life has always not been supportive of that. So I have been through many challenges in my life from a very early age. So one of the ways that I wanted to help myself was to seek therapy, and I must acknowledge Sanjeevani's contribution as an easy go-to, because I volunteered with Sanjeevani in 90s for a short while, and I was very impressed with the set of counselors I came across. One of my very close friends has also been a counselor with Sanjeevani. So my only go-to so far in the last 20 years has been to Sanjeevani, and I do want to acknowledge their very proficient, supportive staff where I have taken counseling at both their centers in Defense Colony, in Kutub Institutional Area, and when my circumstances did not permit going there physically, they have accommodated me over a telephone call for 1 hour, 45 minutes for 6 months every week, once every week. So I'm extremely grateful to an organization like Sanjeevani, and I wanted to acknowledge that. So
Thank you, Jabba. That's very, very heartening, because as an organization, I mean, that's a client sort of.
Yeah, we didn't initially realize actually when we did find Jabba that she'd come to Sanjeevani. But Sonal, you were going to say, sorry.
Yeah. No, just want to say that this wasn't orchestrated by us. Okay, so this is just how they have found each other on air, and they have a common bond. So this is just a disclaimer for audiences who think we might be biased towards Sanjeevani. Anyway, that's not the case. Okay, just putting that on the record. But Jabba, completely with you in this pursuit of happiness that you sort of spoke about, right? That this constant hunger to stay happy, completely with you, and so glad. And also just to mention, you're not alone. I think all of us at different ages, at different stages of life have felt this and perhaps continue to feel this way. But my question is for Mamta actually. Mamta, then, you know, if you think about it, older people or seniors in the family technically have, the family structure used to be so that they were taken care of. I think as much has been this disruptive nature of the way the world is really going, as much as it's impacted the young, it's impacted the old as well. So do you see this current generation more in need than before? Is that an observation at all? Because people would think that retirement, okay, takes a toll, but they prepared for it. Or physical, the depletion takes a toll, but they would take care of it. But is this generation of seniors more in need?
So let me put it this way, that life always poses challenges. And as I said, today the seniors we are looking at are really not dependent that much. And we are talking of the larger cities. And the people are open to taking help. The kind of issues that one faces as one advances in years could be health related, which they could be loneliness related, which is a huge issue, and just talking to somebody and feeling understood. So while Jabba was right in saying that, being judged, feeling not okay, having to adapt to change are issues, but those are issues faced in counseling across the board, any age group. But for the older people, if I could give you an example, the issues that come up could be the death of a life partner. It could be retirement, which means now what do I do with my life? The emptiness syndrome, which, if you would like to put it, is more a challenge of today, because more and more children are leaving home, right? And there are even, issues like a denial of a child who's been diagnosed with mental illness. So you have a 30-something child who has a diagnosis of a mental illness, and what a parent goes through, it's a lot of grief and denial. But what they come to us for is, can you help my child? And then it is for us to see that the main issue is actually what they are going through. Self-blame, sadness, So the issues are not maybe as typical as you think, that old people's issues are different from young people's issues. Issues are pretty much the same. If there is inadequacy, if there is, personality issues, we assume that they will have problems with the in-law child if they are living together. But you'll be surprised that the issues are more with your own children, because that's where the relationship means a lot to you and you want to work on it. And with the youngsters taking a very individualistic stand, which is like, I will, figure out my life, I will work on myself. It also somewhere you can say empowers the elder to take care of their own emotional needs, or it also, you can another way say, it pushes them to figure out other options as opposed to just their own family, you know. So there is a need. The challenges may have been the same to a certain extent, but they've changed as well. And in Sanjeevani, we don't look at long-term therapy. Like, it's not the way the Western world uses, you know, therapy word which goes on for years. It's more like people come with a issue, with a problem in the here and now, and it is then dealt with through sessions. And the COVID years, the online has also made it convenient for people to reach from other parts of the country. Earlier, it was all about Delhi. And then phone calls used to happen. Now it's also online. And you'll be surprised how many 60 plus people are savvy, tech savvy.
Can we just ask, and I actually want to take this, Mamta, Jabal, ask both of you this. I just want to ask, I know that there are a lot of people watching today who possibly wish they could have the parent or the older person in their life be open to therapy. But therapy is a tricky thing. You can't force someone to go and take it. And I just want to ask you there, both of you, Mamta, I'll come to you first to ask you, what are your thoughts around that? Is there a way to almost nudge a relative to go take therapy, or principally is that the wrong thing to try to do?
So there are both kind of things. No, it's not wrong at all. So I know of people who motivate their parents. I know of youngsters. So where they tell them that, you know, it's also a burden on us to take care of your emotional health. So if you would go for therapy, it would ease. And that becomes a great motivator, because it's almost like an emotional blackmail. No parent wants to trouble their children. So when the children say, if you do this, it will be really helpful for us, so please do go. Or sometimes it is just education and exposure, where the parent doesn't know that this can be done, and the children share their stories. So they come of their own volition as well. As I said, there is a lot more exposure because everybody is on Facebook and Instagram. People know what's happening. And plus, there is a little bit of a nudge from the children, which is very helpful, or even friends who've benefited. I'm sure Jabba tells other friends and peers that do, you know, try it. It's helpful. We all do it. I know of people who share openly in small dinners that, you know, I took therapy, it really helped me. I know of somebody who made a small sort of a pool for a parent that, you know, set aside amount that, you know, this is my gift to you. So all sorts of things are happening to encourage therapy.
Jabba.
Yeah. So I'm saying this in jest, but also it is true. It depends a lot on the timing, on the trust that you have built with the other person. This is not in jest. This is,
Yes.
I'll say where it echoed, and I thought that, okay, this is what would make me resist therapy. The minute my child tells me, I think you need therapy because I can't deal with your emotional burden. Don't pass on your stress to me. The minute she says that, I will be even more resistant to therapy, because I think I'm doing perfectly okay, and you should have this much of bandwidth for me to be able to hear me out. I'm only venting. So that's why I am saying the importance of language, the timing, the trust that you have built with the friends or the family that you are wanting them to adopt therapy. And the most important piece in my experience is that till they cannot, there is still a lot of resistance in finding that time, prioritizing this investment in self, even financially, though I know it's very much affordable for all my friends, but they would rather invest somewhere else. So there's an opportunity cost attached to this little bit of investment. Sanjeevani offers it free, but all the other counselors would take a payment for it, and they can very well afford it.
Correct.
But it's a question of prioritizing your time prioritizing how you want to spend your money. So I think only when they think that they cannot take it anymore, they're actually their own awareness of their mental state, that how much it is coming in their way of leading a normal, happy daily life, will they actually go for it? That's my take on. I am absolutely all the time advocating it for anyone above the age of 10 or 12. That's what I would have told my daughter umpteen times, that it's absolutely healthy and okay to take therapy. The most important fact of life is to stay happy and healthy. And whatever supports us in that pursuit, we must go for it immediately, because time is precious. But this language will not cut any ice with those who are not ready for it themselves. So it really is dependent on the person hearing me. And for that, as I said, there are a couple of prerequisites.
Beautifully put. Thank you.
I think that's a good note to wrap this segment. Never enough time to sort of speak about mental health. But Jabba, when you said that, I can just hear my father saying exactly those words if we were to go to them and talk about therapy. This is so true. It happens in every household. So timing and language, I think, key takeaways for all the younger folks watching right now. We'll have to leave it there, but we promise to return to this subject. This is so fascinating. Thank you both, Mamta and Jabba, for joining us and sharing your thoughts and views.
Okay, let's take you, our audiences, now to what we have next. We're heading into a quick break, but on the other side, we have something entirely different from this topic to the world of art. We're taking you to the world's fastest speed painter, Vilas Nayak. Take a look after the break.
A Reuters reporter heard air raid sirens blaring, indicating a missile threat, moments before Grossi arrived. Grossi has repeatedly warned of a nuclear disaster if nuclear plants are attacked.
И, соответственно, управлением всех основного помогать.
Люди находились неподалеку. It was a pellet gun.
After the explosion of that shell, we then found the shroud. Now I will show you the place where the artillery.
Здание, куда мы могли наконец так, куда привозим с блока, это работает.
Behind us,
Отдельно лежал боеприпас, отдельно.
По умолчанию.
Новая Kursk, вот тот. Вон, вот сюда, смотрите.
Где кран стоит?
Вон.
Помещение-то Хаят, мы туда еще приедем. Так, стучи в дверь. Знакомьтесь, приемный гендиректор МАГАТЭ Гросси. Александр Шучка, все хорошо. Так, рассказывай.
Was upgraded. Of the Chernobyl station and to judge for yourself change the whole system, the interface. There's a
Газ, вода.
Okay, we're welcoming you back with stories from not just India but also across the world. Let's take a look at our first story. India and Russia are in this next story. Let's take a look. It's a wrap. They are signing a working plan. This is a joint Russian-Indian commission on the cooperation in the field of emergency management. This is for 2025-2026. It's the second meeting of the joint Russian-Indian commission on the cooperation in the field of emergency management, all of this taking place in Moscow. So issues like the use of space monitoring technologies for risk forecasting and emergency response, the exchange of experience on responding to large-scale disasters, all of this was discussed at the meeting. The two countries, as we said, have agreed to cooperate.
Weeks after the Trump assassination attempt, the FBI officials revealed the gunman who tried to kill Donald Trump mounted a sustained, detailed effort to attack a major gathering of some sort before deciding to target the Republican president candidate at the Pennsylvania Valley. The FBI officials said that Thomas Crooks searched more than 60 times for information about the Republican presidential candidate and his then rival Democratic president candidate Joe Biden before registering for the Trump rally in early July.
And we're taking you to an entirely different story after that, one that's been playing out in Paris days after his dramatic arrest at a Paris airport. The Telegram CEO Pavel Durov has been freed from police custody. He'll now appear in court. The Russian-born billionaire is being investigated, remember, for several suspected offences related to criminal activity on the platform, including complicity in illegal gang transactions, laundering of crimes in an organised gang, and the refusal to communicate information when authorities have asked.
Japan has issued evacuation orders for nearly 1 million people in the path of Typhoon Shanchan as a powerful storm brought torrential rain, strong winds and landslides in which one person has been killed. Factories have been shuttered and hundreds of flights cancelled as the typhoon barreled towards the main southwest island of Kyushu with gusts of up to 70 meters per second. Emergency warnings have been issued across much of the country.
And we're taking you to a story of a 4-year-old boy accidentally smashing a Bronze Age jar. This is at an archaeological museum in Haifa in Israel. The ancient jar, which was on display at the University of Haifa's Heck Museum dates back to between 2200 and 1500 BC. It makes it at least 3500 years old. And as a further sign that there were no hard feelings, the museum's general director actually invited the child and the family to return to the museum, this time to see the restored jar. The family has accepted they'll actually be visiting later this weekend when the museum plans to have finished repairs on the jar. Wow, for our person of interest, we hope you're amazed once again. That was a video where you had one of the world's fastest speed painters, Vilas Nayak, actually painting out our TPC logo, and he did that, as you saw, in a very, very tight time period. He hails from Bangalore and he started painting at just 3. Fast forward to today and he splashed his way to becoming one of the most sought after speed painting artists in the entire world.
Yeah, he's quite famous. In fact, you must have seen it in India's Got Talent, where he wowed the nation as one of the finalists, or perhaps even caught him during Asia's Got Talent. His performance painted the town red, literally, from dazzling the likes of Shah Rukh Khan, Dalai Lama, sports legends like Pele, Lewis Hamilton, Sachin Tendulkar. Whether it's for the Indian Armed Forces, ISRO, or events in 36 countries around the globe, or just for TVC, he's pretty much out there making sure that he wows people with not just painting fast but painting in really quirky ways. So we had to get him on the show to understand more about that, and I think we have him now, right?
Right, let's go over to him. Let's ask him some questions. Vilas, firstly, thank you for taking out the time to paint out our logo for us. It's not too often that we get to see something like that. You started painting, we were telling our audiences, at 3, but becoming a painter full-time as an Indian, ye to thoda mushkil hai, you know, convincing your parents entirely, all of that. How did you go about it, or did you sort of become a painter full-time as you were already an adult?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here on the show. Yeah, rightly said, I started sketching at the age of 3, you know, as Pablo Picasso said, right? I mean, every child is an artist. The challenge is how to remain an artist once you grow up. So I started very young. For me, I lived in a village, it's called Ujire in Mangalore district back then. There was a lot of greenery around, and I was so inspired by the nature around me, and that inspired me to sketch and paint. Continued throughout my childhood, school and college days. Unfortunately, I was good in academics as well, so I was a rank holder throughout. So you know how during 90s especially, you know, in an Indian village, people were like, okay, what will you do as an artist, you know, taking it up as a full-time profession? Why don't you just go and work somewhere, because you're anyways good in studies? So that was the dilemma that I had, but I continued through that phase, and I moved to Mysore, because Mysore I thought will give me some you know, scope to improve my artwork. I got a chance to perform at the Dasara festival there. So my first ever, I remember, speed painting performance was in 2004. So now we are in 2024. It's exactly 20 years of practice that you see on the canvas now. I started with a very small canvas, taking a lot of time. I used to take like 15 minutes to complete a small canvas on the stage, because I was also very introvert kid back then. You know, for me, going on stage itself was a huge challenge to face the audience. Now I'm kind of used to it.
Yeah. So Vilas, the wow factor about your painting is not just the fact that you're a great artist, and not only the fact that you do it with speed, but you do it upside down, you do it blindfolded, you throw different things at it, and then there is this magic factor that really comes on board. So what exactly is getting all of this going? The idea really is to wow people with things which have never been seen before.
Yeah, because if I'm on stage, performing for let's say 20-25 minutes of time, I do one painting, and how do I keep the audience glued to my canvas? It's only by going to the next level. So I was thinking what else I can do. So I started doing upside down. It was quite challenging at the beginning, but then I study the picture upside down and do it. Wearing a mask is one of the technique. One more thing that I also do is like doing a puzzle painting. So rather than painting in one canvas, I create painting in 4 different canvases in a puzzle manner, and then put it all together and looks like one picture. But something that I really also enjoy is doing a jugalbandi with a musician or a singer or a dancer. So it's very beautiful when you have another live performer right next to you, and then you do that jugalbandi. I'm painting and they are singing or dancing, and I think it creates a beautiful experience to the audience.
What is something, Vilas, take us behind the scenes, what is something people don't realize though about the kind of effort that you're putting in to reach the level of perfection you're at?
Well, they don't realize that there's a lot of thing going on in my head. It could be as simple as, look, I have actually set the minute for a music track, let's say for 4 minutes. So I know that, okay, now it is 3.5 minutes and I have just another 30 seconds to go. But then the painting is not completed yet. I may need, let's say, another 1 minute to go. So, I'm actually racing against the time to complete that painting, but the audience doesn't know that. Sometimes what will also happen is I have made few mistakes. The audience may or may not know that, but as an artist, I know that that's a mistake. So I have to continue with all these thoughts in my mind at the same time, as if nothing is happening and everything is going fine. Also, there's a lot of, a lot of strength, stamina that you require, because, this is like, you need a lot of energy to pick the paint, get up, dance around, do all that stuff in a matter of a couple of minutes. So yeah, I say that, this is actually like playing 2020 cricket as against doing a fine artwork in your studio, which is more like playing test cricket.
Yeah, it actually is a full workout with both your hands working. You are dancing around the canvas and on stage as well. But tell us a particularly challenging piece of work or particularly memorable piece of work that you've done so far.
I think, I have had all kind of experiences, but I think something that really stands out is I think this was during 2009, before I could do all those reality shows. So obviously nobody knew who this guy was on stage. And I was made to perform at a metal festival in Bangalore, and I was put up on stage just before the final act was about to happen. And I think people were quite furious to see that, okay, there is this guy who is going to paint on stage and all that stuff. So they actually started booing me, and I was like, should I actually continue? I'm painting and I can actually hear people literally shouting at me, and I continued through that, and in a matter of 3 minutes everything changed, because they realized that I was actually painting Jimi Hendrix upside down, and I turned the painting upside down. The entire like 15,000 odd audience, they completely overjoyed, they clapped for me and all that stuff. So I think this was a amazing experience, how you can actually turn around a crowd in a matter of 3 minutes through your talent.
How cool. Yeah. Tell us, not many people get to say they've been given a football by Pele, which I thought was really, really cool. Can you just tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, I was really lucky to get an opportunity to perform for the football legend Pele, and to my surprise, he was sitting like literally right next to me when I was on stage performing. So he was watching me from a very close quarters, and I completed the painting. I did it upside down, turned it around and kept it. He was so kind enough, I got into the painting, he signed it, and he actually gifted a football signed, and I still have it in my house, proudly, cherishing it. I think I'm totally blessed to have got that opportunity.
How lovely.
Wow.
And how lovely. As we let you go, Vilas, tell us a little bit about your charity work. We believe a lot of causes you look into as well. So how exactly does that work, and what are these causes that you're working for?
So I do a lot of perform at a lot of charity events. Like it could be raising funds for the education of children's. I've done a lot of events to raise funds for the cancer patients. One part of the charity work is to raise funds, but then I think beyond that, what I believe as an artist I could do is to make people happy and to perform for them, to inspire them, or to touch them emotionally. I remember one incident, if I can share. I was told by one of my friends that there is this girl who is terminally ill and she really wanted to watch me perform. I initially didn't believe, but then I went to her house and actually saw that she was lying on the bed. She was not even able to get up. So I had to sit down and paint for her. I remember I did something upside down and turn it around. And all that while she was sleeping and she was watching, and later on, of course, she passed away. So for me, it's like I was actually able to perform for her, during her last days on this planet. So it's very emotional, some of the stories, that I have got to experience in this artistic journey.
How lovely.
Vilas, thank you for sharing your stories with us, for walking us through not just your process, but all of the challenges, the unique challenges, especially when the audience doesn't know what they're in for. Thank you for taking out the time and joining us this morning.
All right, so that was Vilas Nayak creating magic on the canvas. But let's switch over and switch tracks to somebody who's spreading joy on the field. It's National Sports Day today and celebrated annually on the 29th of August in India. It marks the birth anniversary of Major Dhyan Chand. This day emphasizes on the importance of sports and physical activities and serves to honor Major Dhyan Chand's legacy in Indian hockey. So we thought, what better way to sort of mark this day than speak to Indian hockey's latest heartthrob, Manpreet Singh.
So in this interview, Manpreet talks about his Olympic journey, the comparison that he keeps hearing with Dhanraj Pillai, his inspirations, his challenges, and of course what we were most interested to get to know, which is fitness regime, cheat meals, family ka pyar, all of that. Take a look, this is the conversation.
पर्सनली आप जब आपके 4th ओलंपिक्स में जा रहे थे, पर्सनली कितना सिग्निफिकेंट था आपके लिए ये कैंपेन?
पर टू बी ऑनेस्ट, ये काफी एक पर्सनली बहुत एक प्राउड वाली मोमेंट थी कि मैं 4था ओलंपिक खेलने के लिए जा रहा था। और साथ में ये भी था कि हाँ, कि जो प्रीवियस ओलंपिक्स में हमारा रहा है, जैसे हम लोगों ने टोक्यो में ब्रॉन्ज मेडल जीता है, इसमें भी हमें वैसे ही परफॉर्म करना है। तो पूरा अगर देखा जाए तो जो 4 ओलंपिक्स में पहला जो ओलंपिक था मेरा, वो एक मेरे लिए और श्रीजीश के लिए, दोनों के लिए, हमारे लिए वो अच्छा नहीं गया था, क्योंकि हम लोगों ने वहाँ पे 12th फिनिश किया था, कोई भी मैच नहीं वहाँ पे जीते थे। फिर 16 में हम लोगों ने क्वार्टर फाइनल लूज किया था, और टोक्यो में मेडल पे आया, ब्रॉन्ज मेडल आया, और इसके बाद फिर हमारा इस बार जो ब्रॉन्ज मेडल आया। तो जर्नी काफी अच्छा था, और 4थी ओलंपिक में एक प्राउड मोमेंट था कि हाँ, कि यार 4था ओलंपिक जा रहा है और इसको वैसे ही खेलना, क्या पता कि नेक्स्ट ओलंपिक खेलें या ना खेलें। अगर मैं ना टोक्यो ओलंपिक की बात करूं, वो हमारे लिए थोड़ा ज्यादा स्पेशल हो जाता है, क्योंकि उस वक्त सर पेंडेमिक की वजह से हम लोग सभी ना बेंगलोर में कैंप्स में फंसे नहीं बोल सकते। वो एक हमारे लिए काफी एक अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली हमें वहां से, क्योंकि हम लोग ट्रेनिंग कैंप कर रहे थे, और जब हमें जून में समय पता चला कि हाँ, कि जो ओलंपिक्स है वो पोस्टपोन हो चुकी हैं। और उस वक्त ना सभी के माइंड में यही था कि यार हाँ, कि अभी हमारे पास 1 साल और हमें और मिल चुका है, कि हमें यहाँ से और अच्छी मेहनत करनी है, कि जब हम लोग टोक्यो ओलंपिक्स में जाएं तो वहाँ पे कोई ऐसा एरिया ना हो हमारा फील्ड के ऊपर कि जहाँ पे हम लोगों ने काम ना किया हो। और सर वो पीरियड में सभी ने बहुत ज्यादा मेहनत की थी, और हम लोगों ने उसमें क्या था कि एक दूसरे के बैकग्राउंड के बारे में जाना था, कि हाँ, कि कितना डिफिकल्टी की वजह से उनके पेरेंट्स ने प्लेयर्स को यहाँ तक पहुंचाया, और प्लेयर्स ने कितनी डिफिकल्टी के साथ यहाँ तक पहुंचे है ना। वो एक टाइम था। और सर टोक्यो में था कि सभी के माइंड में ये था कि यार हमें ओलंपिक पार्टिसिपेट करने नहीं जाना है, हमें मेडल जीतने जाना है। और जो उस वक्त सभी का माइंडसेट और बिलीव था ना सर, वही हम लोगों ने इस बार भी जो टीम में वो दिखा सर हमें। और सभी में बिलीव था कि हाँ, कि लास्ट हम लोगों ने ओलंपिक में ब्रॉन्ज जीता, इस बार हमें कलर चेंज करना है, तो उसके लिए क्या क्या चीजें लास्ट टाइम हम लोगों ने की थी वही इस बार भी करेंगे सर। तो वही चीजों हम लोगों ने दोनों ओलंपिक्स में की। हम लोगों ने पहली बात थी कि हाँ, कि हम लोग थोड़ा सोशल मीडिया से दूर हुए थे, कि हाँ कि हमें अपने गेम्स के ऊपर फोकस करना है, और दूसरा था कि हमें मैच पे मैच ऊपर जाना है, किसी के साथ भी मैच आएगा तो हमें वैसी अप्रोच करना है, हर मैच जीतने के लिए जाना है, वो माइंडसेट था। और तीसरा था कि हाँ कि हमें कुछ भी हो जाए हमें अपना बेस्ट देना है हर मैच में। ये 3 चीजें थी जो दोनों ओलंपिक्स में हम लोगों ने कंटिन्यू किया सर, और जिसकी वजह से हमें रिजल्ट दिखने के लिए भी मिला। लास्ट ओलंपिक्स में हम लोग सेमीफाइनल लूज किया तो थोड़ा गैप था, बट इस बार हम लोगों ने जो सेमीफाइनल लूज किया वो बहुत ज्यादा ही क्लोज से लूज किया, बहुत अच्छा खेली, पूरी टीम ही बहुत अच्छा जर्मन के खिलाफ खेली, 3-2 से हम लोगों ने लूज किया और बहुत अच्छा रहा वो सेमीफाइनल। तो देख रहे हैं कि वो जो माइंड सेट था, सभी का बिलीव था, वो काफी चेंज हो चुका था सर इस बार। मैं ना काफी पुअर फैमिली से निकला हूँ ना, मेरे दोनों बड़े भाई पहले हॉकी खेलते थे, बट फैमिली की कंडीशन की वजह से उनको हॉकी छोड़ना पड़ा। पहले स्टार्टिंग में मेरे फैमिली भी मुझे इतना सपोर्ट नहीं करती थी, क्योंकि सभी को पता था हॉकी काफी टफ है, जिसमें चोट वगैरह लगती रहती है। तो बट एक था कि हाँ कि मेरे में पैशन था कि मुझे हॉकी खेलना है, क्योंकि हमारे गांव में जो परगट सिंह थे वो बहुत फेमस प्लेयर थे, उन्होंने 92 और 96 में उन्होंने कैप्टन थे वो ओलंपिक्स में, और हमारे गांव में उनका काफी नाम था कि हाँ सभी बोलते थे परगट सिंह आ गए, परगट सिंह आ गए। और वो एक लेगेसी थे कि मुझे भी था कि मुझे भी उनके जैसा बनना है, कि जब मैं गांव में आऊं वापस मुझे सभी लोग बोले कि यार मनप्रीत आया, मनप्रीत आ रहा है। तो उस वक्त फैमिली की तरफ से फाइनेंशियल काफी प्रॉब्लम रहती थी, क्योंकि घर में इतना हमारे में फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट नहीं थी हमारे में। तो उस वक्त भी मेरी मम्मी और मेरे दोनों भाइयों ने बहुत स्ट्रगल किया उस टाइम, उन्होंने काफी स्ट्रगल करके मुझे खिलाया। और बट आज अगर देखता हूँ तो वो चीज में, और कई बार मम्मी के साथ बैठा तो मम्मी रोने लग जाती है कि हाँ कि यार उस टाइम पे हमारे पास कुछ भी नहीं था, है ना, कि तूने जब खेला है, बट आज तेरी वजह से हमारे अच्छा घर है, सब कुछ है। तो वो काफी अच्छा लगता है, वो खुशी होती है कि हाँ कि यार एटलीस्ट फाइनली मैंने कुछ अपनी फैमिली को अच्छा हैप्पीनेस, सभी खुश है ना, तो वो एक अच्छा लगता है सर मुझे। ये उसमें यही रहता है कि जैसे अभी घर पे भी हूँ तो मैं अपना जो डाइट मेरा वो उसको मेंटेन करूँ। ये नहीं कि आपको पता ही है पंजाबी में तो स्पेशली यही होता है ना कि हाँ कि कोई जीत के आए चलो जी मिठा खा लो यार, आज आलू वाले पराठे बन जाएंगे यार, आज ये जलेबी या कुछ खा लो। तो ये चीज को मैं अवॉइड करता हूँ भाजी, कि घर पे भी हाँ कि अगर कम, क्योंकि लोड कम होता है, ट्रेनिंग कम होती है, तो उसमें भी अपना जो डाइट है उसको मेंटेन करूँ। और जब मैं कैंप्स में जा रहा हूँ या अपने जो मेरे ट्रेनर्स हैं जो है ना, उनसे जो प्रोग्राम लेकर रखो कि हाँ कि जब भी टाइम मिले जिम करता रहूं, अपना जहाँ अपना फिटनेस है उसको कंटिन्यू करता रहूं, कि ये ना हो कि जब मैं वापस कैंप में जाऊं तो, क्योंकि कैंप्स में जो ट्रेनिंग लोड होता है वो बहुत ज्यादा होता है, तो उसको ये ना हो कि मैं वहां पे जाऊं सडनली वो लोड पर मेरी बॉडी के ऊपर लोड आए तो मुझे इंजरी हो या कुछ चीज हो, तो उसको अवॉइड करके जो फिटनेस लेवल उसको कंटिन्यू ही करता रहूं 365 डेज, कि वो बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है। और डाइट जो है वो स्पेशल रोल है कि हाँ कि मीठा नहीं, स्वीट नहीं खाना है, उसको अवॉइड करो। अपनी जो दूसरी चीजें रेगुलर हम लोग खा रहे हैं, प्रोटीन ज्यादा खाना है, वो चीज को कंटिन्यू करना है। बिल्कुल भाजी होता है, क्योंकि जब आप इतना ट्रेनिंग करने के बाद 1-2 दिन होता है कि यार बॉडी को अभी दूसरी चीजों की भी नीड है, कई बार खा लेते हैं, तो उस वक्त फिर होता है कि हाँ कि मम्मी को बोल देते फिर बना लो आलू वाले पराठे आज सवेरे, हैं फिर आलू वाले पराठे बन जाते हैं, फिर साथ में फिर आपको पता है मीठी लस्सी आ जाती है, ये चीजें आ जाती हैं, जहाँ फिर और दूसरी सब्जियां हो जाती हैं जो जिसमें पूरा खुल के फिर मीठा चलता है सर।
All right, next we bring you a special segment on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's start with how the markets are set to open today. GIFT Nifty indicates a negative start for the Indian equities. The Asian equity market opened weak as well, with selling in tech stocks dragging some indices. Now, gold and silver prices also inched up on Thursday. Meanwhile, crude oil prices stay firm as worries over supply disruption continue to the Middle East conflicts.
And let's take a look at a sector in particular. Monsoon has augured very, very well for fertilizer demand in FY25. However, rising raw material prices remain an area of major concern. Revision in fertilizer subsidy rates needs and remains critical, which, if inadequate, can potentially negate the benefits arising from an above normal monsoon. Now you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the fertilizer industry, but also various other actionable insights on markets. It is the premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights that you're ever going to need, brought to you by Money Control.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on today's edition. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any further questions and if you want us to take mental health conversation even forward, please write into us.
Goodbye.
UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi said Russia's Kursk power plant is at risk of a nuclear accident. That's while a frontline battle rages in the Kursk region, a mere 25 miles from the plant.
When a plant is operating, the temperature is much higher, and if there was the case of an impact or something that could affect it, there would be serious consequences.
Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, gave his warning on Tuesday after an inspection.
This nuclear power plant is of the RBMK type, which basically means that it does not have the containment dome and protective structure that is typical to most of the more current nuclear power plants. What does this mean? This means that the core of the reactor containing nuclear material is protected just by a normal roof. This makes it extremely exposed.
President Vladimir Putin accused Ukraine last week of trying to attack the Kursk plant. That's after Ukrainian troops carved out a portion of Russian territory this month. Ukraine has yet to respond to the accusations that it attacked the facility. The safety of nuclear power plants has repeatedly been endangered over the course of the Ukraine war. Conflict began in February 2022, when Russia sent thousands of troops over the border into Ukraine. Moscow and Kyiv have repeatedly blamed each other for drone and artillery attacks on the Russian-controlled Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. However, the recent incursion by Ukrainian forces into Russia has put the spotlight on the Kursk plant. It has 4 reactors of the same design as those at the Chernobyl nuclear plant, scene of the world's worst civilian nuclear disaster in 1986. Grossi also visited a school in the region, close to the Kursk nuclear power plant. A Reuters reporter heard air raid sirens blaring, indicating a missile threat, moments before Grossi arrived. Grossi has repeatedly warned of a nuclear disaster if nuclear plants are attacked.